Hello. It is Friday the 15th of May, 2020. My son is 33 today. Happy birthday, Alex. Pastor Ron Jetter, Immanuel Lutheran Church, or as I like to call myself, sheepdog. If Jesus is the good shepherd, then pastors really are sheepdogs. Our job is to run around the flock and kind of keep things corralled, keep people listening to the voice of the Good Shepherd. I hope that's what I do. I've been looking at the book of Acts, and one thing I noticed is that the disciples and the larger and growing group gradually got into a routine. Now keep in mind, these people still had daily jobs. They still had to earn their daily bread for the most part. But they also began gathering because they needed to take time out of their week to somehow devote themselves to those four things that were mentioned last time I talked, which was now 3 days ago on Tuesday. Sorry about yesterday's technical problems. Hopefully today works fine. But fellowship, as I talked about, was a very important thing. They had to do that somewhere, somehow. And fellowship for them meant being in the same place together. We're learning a way of fellowship that has never been possible before, never been imagined. I mean, when telephone came into being and people could actually talk live, hearing their voices, that was really the first long distance fellowship that occurred, but generally it was between two people. Sometimes if you're on a party line, there could be a third person. As technology then has grown, the ability to do video conferencing with many people, which it's really just in the last 10 years, allows for long distance fellowship. That wasn't the case in Jesus' time. In the aftermath of the resurrection, it was very important that they spend time face to face. Also, education. The 12 apostles of Jesus and those others who were part of that group of eyewitnesses of his public ministry at his death and resurrection were also very important in that early community because they had a story to tell. And we hear in one place in the book of Acts, 3,000 people chose to have a relationship with God through Jesus Christ in one day. And in another, 5,000 people. In one place it says, this is for you and your families who aren't even here. So these people would go home then. They were Jews who would come to Jerusalem for Pentecost. They would go home and take this story, and they would then be part of making their whole household part of the growing family of Christ. That means they had to spend time learning. And the disciples who knew the story had to spend time teaching. So the teaching and learning, prayer, sharing, and fellowship, eating together, all of this was part of the routine. And they eventually, we know, mainly turned this into a Sunday gathering. At the end of the workday Sunday, they would gather. They didn't gather on Friday. The Friday was the Sabbath. So from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, you were still, if you were Jewish, obeying that Sabbath and then participating in synagogue worship or in temple worship. So you didn't just get together with others. So the Gentile Christians and the Jewish Christians found that Sunday was a good day to gather because, after all, it was the first day of the week. It was the day in which Jesus rose. In fact, we say that in the communion liturgy. I've told you this before. In the night in which he was betrayed, and we give you thanks for on this day he rose from death and the grave, meaning Sunday. Friday was the day of crucifixion. Sunday on this day. And now that became the day of the community practicing their four pillars of the faith then. Well, I've gotten into a routine too. I know for some people, one day is a lot like the next. For me, Sunday is, of course, the day when I gather with you live through this same technology of the airwaves, and we worship Christ together. We hear the word, we share the supper, we pray, and we enjoy a little bit of fellowship. Monday, I have Rotary, and I'm still the president of the Sunnyside Rotary Club, and that means I've got quite a bit to do, and There's other meetings with subcommittees and things throughout the week, but I've got to communicate with all my people. So Monday morning up until 1 or 2 in the afternoon is pretty busy with Rotary. Tuesday, that's my day at the church. I physically go to the church and spend the morning at the church. And now with other people who have come, we're able to, in a socially distancing way, have some brief conversations and then take care of the physical part of the church, take care of the property so that we continue to say to the neighborhood, we're here. And we do that through beautification of the landscape and through the food box being kept full. Wednesday then is my Bible study afternoon, 4 p.m. live Bible study on Zoom again. Thursday, well, that's the day when I gather again with technology with our bishop, our assistant bishop, and other pastors in our synod, where we trade ideas, see how people are doing, where we pray with and for each other, and where we then get the latest word on what our denomination is recommending as far as how we move forward with worship in the days and weeks to come. For instance, in Idaho, it is now legal this coming Sunday to gather in worship. And so congregations have a serious decision to make. How do they do that and ensure the safety of everybody worshiping? How do they continue involving people who are now accustomed to doing this online? So that's Thursday. Friday, back at the church, and we have a very small group of people. Andrea leads us and records us as 4 of us sing songs, and we are spaced out throughout the front of the sanctuary there with our hymnals, and we're hoping that that's helping. I think it's great, so that when you hear those hymns, it's Andrea playing the piano with singing going on. So that's Friday morning, late morning, early afternoon. And then Friday for me, which is what today is lawn mowing day to do. It rained last night, so now the grass is finally dry enough, so I'm going to go out and mow after this. Saturday, well, Saturday's the day after I do my message, or before and after. That's the day to get everything ready for the Sunday service, to go over every detail, to finish the sermon, figure out what I'm doing with children's time, get my communion ready. And I've been baking bread every Saturday so that I have a fresh loaf of homemade bread for communion on Sunday, and I've just enjoyed doing that. I'm baking about twice a week now, and it seems like everybody is too. In fact, I was watching a news broadcast, and one of the reporters says, "Is everyone making sourdough at home now?" Well, I am. Yeah, I don't know what I'll have this Sunday, but I guess you'll find out then. I guess I'll find out too, because I don't yet know. But routines are important so that one day doesn't just go into the next and we get lost that way. It's important to have something every day that marks passage, even as we mark passage from this season of Easter through the 49 days until we get to the festival of Pentecost. In the book of Acts, we see how they did that. Learning, teaching, gathering together to enjoy one another's company, praying and sharing and eating. Well, I look forward to the day when we can all be in each other's presence, to have a meal together, to pray and to worship together. Until then, though, God bless you and your efforts as you find ways to keep being the church during this time of COVID-19 quarantine.